And we're about to switch gears and give you Avrodh season 2. Michael, take it away.
Yeah, so just to start off, we have a new season here of Avrodh, and it's an adaptation of India's Most Fearless 2 by Shiv Arora and Rahul Singh. And in this, we have a great cast. We have Abir Chatterjee, we have Neeraj Kabi, Sanjay Suri, and lots more. And for those of you that do not know, the story takes the front seat through the series. This shows the reality of the conflict in Kashmir and the intermingling of the drug routes across the border. This series really, takes use of the locals for carrying the narcotics and really shows kind of the story that's, going on up there with the rebel groups within India. But on top of that, one thing this series does really well is its cinematography, its dialogues, and the score to really, kind of keep the series, driven, keep the momentum going throughout it, and really keep you engaged. I just know that whenever I was watching this and whenever I was seeing these scenes, all these additional effects, with, like I said, the cinematography, the dialogue, the score really kept me engaged with the issue, with having hardly any context myself. Watching this too, I really feel like that I am, feeling, some of the emotions of some of the people that are affected by this as well. And at the same time, it is like a timepiece of, what was going on in Kashmir at the time and everything like that. And I feel like, through that, I'm really taking away a lot through watching that. And overall, I really enjoyed it. It was quite intense, I will say. Like, there are a lot of times in which it is serving its purpose. It's telling the story of what was happening in Kashmir at the time. So overall, I really liked it. I really felt like I had great takeaway from watching this piece, and would highly recommend. Do want to put, just, slight trigger warnings. This show does contain violence and is telling, the real story. So, if there is, any of that you experience that you might find, triggering, do watch with caution. But would love to hand it off to Em or Shreya to, kind of touch up on that.
Take it away, Em.
Absolutely. So what happens when 70 kilograms of RDX reaches India? And how do they realize that it has reached India? The entire process is between the research wing of special forces and income tax officer. So the income tax guy is just investigating a few people and trying to figure out where the money has come from and whether the money has been laundered. By following the money trail, he realizes something has been bought and sold. And when he visits a place, they realize that the transaction is an RDX transaction, and he lets the army know. I don't know how this guy, this income tax guy, is a reserve army guy, special forces guy for some reason, but he passes on the intel to the army reserve guys, and then they work in tandem to figure out exactly what's going on. But the reality of this book is this entire series, which is based on the book, as Michael said, India's Most Fearless 2, written by Shiv Arora and by Rahul Singh, is actually how the narcotics business around the region is linked with terrorism, is linked with money laundering, is linked with corporations upon corporations upon shell corporations, and how all of these transactions happen through nonprofits around the world, and how all of this come together to fund terror networks. And it is such a riveting watch, because once you start watching it, you will continue to watch it. Now, I don't know how much of the story is, there's no postscript on the story of how much of this is real or unreal. There is, of course, an explanation of why India demonetized in the end, but we don't want to comment on the politics of it. We don't know how much of that is true, or whether that is the reality or it is not the reality. But what really happens over here is that there is an income tax officer, additional commissioner for income tax, played by Abir Chatterjee. Impressive debut in the Hindi content space. He is a Bengali actor, of course. And, he's this really unassuming character. You start rooting for him immediately. And then he is working also as a reserve army officer. And then he starts following a money trail that leads him to realize that there are going to be 25 orchestrated attacks, 25 aircrafts over 25 Indian states on a certain day. And all of this unravels in around 9 episodes of this series, around 45 minutes each. And then they uncover bit by bit how this is financed by the ISI through a network of nonprofits and other corporations and shell corporations and people, and how the shipments arrive and how the shipments are hidden inside printers and how the detonators arrive somewhere else, and how little rival organizations all over India are activated to be party to all of this. The entire nexus of how this terror network works through money laundering and through other means is just immensely well written. And it's quite a riveting watch, by the way. The cinematography, the dialogues, the score of the tempo of the plot, we don't know. I mean, we know, because if you read politics, you know this is real, and this is how terror financing happens, and this is how terrorism works. Some of the reality, the conflict of Kashmir, of course, is true. This is how terrorist cells are run in Kashmir by the ISI. This is how mules are sent. Drugs is a very big part of how people are used to transport arms and ammunition across the border, how people are paid off, how armies paid off, how corruption is handled. It is all so real that I literally, it was just a riveting watch. I just couldn't sleep. I had to binge watch it in one go.
So Michael, what did you think?
Look, this is a timepiece, and this was a timepiece done well. There are, loads of material out there that will tell the Kashmir story, but, from what I've seen, I don't think there really is any that do it better than this series right here, especially within season 2. We are really seeing, like I was saying earlier, the true story of what is happening in Kashmir. And we're seeing, not only just like an overview, but we're seeing a lot of like the interpersonal, actions and consequences that were happening, through this. We're seeing a lot of, kind of like from like the people's view to what was happening. And, I just think if you're looking for a drama, if you're looking for an action-packed, season to tell you about, essentially what was happening in Kashmir, I think that this is a great series to watch. So overall, those are my thoughts.